God, I love that voice when it happens. It makes me feel like I'm so exclusive. But anyways, this is the Drew Experience, the show that's 50% combat sports and 50% hockey. And we're back. I'm back after a 2-month layoff. Very busy. I'm officially moved into my first apartment, so I'm adulting. Yay. Can do what I want, when I want, eat what I want, and no one can say shit. Anyways, I digress. The show is brought to you by a few things. KRT Tips and Tricks with Senseis Wesley, Jansen, and Darren Stringer, Kyokushin Shuffle podcast with Patrick Pinto, Marshall Way and Real Talk with Scott and Shianteri Burkett, and also, most importantly, one of the most important books of our time. If I don't show it right, I'm doing my best. Shian Cameron Quinn's book, The Budo Karate of Masoyama, 2nd edition, available online, talking about the history of karate and whatnot. And also Moments Management, one of the leading management companies for pro and up-and-coming MMA fighters worldwide, where Nima Safapur and his team will make sure that you are taken care of when you become a pro fighter, for before, during, and after. But today's episode is, everyone, we want to think it's a nice hurrah, welcome back. But in the past few weeks, we lost one of the biggest names in Kyokushin karate. Probably we could say one of the forefathers of it, with the founder Sosai Oyama and Hanshi Steve Arneil. And when doing this episode, I really wanted to get two people who knew him well, who knew him firsthand, and understand the impact he had. So with their record appearance for the 3rd time together, I have Senseis Wesley Jansen and Darren Stringer. Welcome back, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's obviously a pleasure to be here. Obviously wish the discussion we're potentially going to have wouldn't be right now, but, has to happen sometime, and it's now.
It really is true, because, it's when I heard the news that Hanshi passed away, it was like when I woke up at 6 a.m. on July 3rd or 4th, or it was July 3rd or 4th. It was 2 days before my move, and I wake up and it's like, I'm like, or it was like the week after, and I was like, oh my God, it was like Hanshi Steve Arneil passed away. And I sent it to my coach right away, and he was shocked too. Like I think it took everybody by surprise. But it's like, how did you guys find out?
By the internet, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the announcement that we published from the BKK and the IFK simultaneously was 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Can't remember the date. He passed on the 2nd of July, so 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th of July, I think it was announced to the world, 7 a.m. So, that's when it was made real for a lot of people. Yeah. There were a few rumors flying around before that, but no confirmations, because the family wanted to keep it between them and then issue an official statement. So unfortunately, when it came to actual fact confirmation on the Tuesday, I think it shook the world, to be fair. And in some ways, you could argue that it should shake the world because of his position, his stature, and just the person he was, really. So,
yeah. Without him knowing, he was probably one of the biggest influencers. A very modern thing to be an influencer, but he really and truly was. So yeah, when it was confirmed, it made it very real. It sounds kind of weird, but I'm just really happy that it really shook the world. You know what I mean? Because that's what he deserved. He was an amazing personality, and in karate, but also besides karate. And then the impact it has is, I think, a big honor for him. So as sad as it is, it's good to see so many people loved him.
You really don't know the impact you have until you leave. And, you know, it's too bad, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure deep down, if Hanshi if we will never be able to read the minds of others, but I'm pretty sure deep down Hanshi retired happily. I mean, when he came on to your video, he looks so joyful, full of joy with everything he's accomplished. And when you retire, because he ended that chapter, you know, being in karate as, you know, with the age coming, and I think he should. I think we always idolize stars, celebrities, but I think we need to also pay more homage to men like Hanshi for how he's like changed the lives of others, like who through karate and martial arts.
Yeah, I think 100%. I mean, I definitely idolized him. I mean, I was saying to a couple of people, he's actually probably was the single person on the planet that has been involved in my life, as in I've known him physically longer than probably anybody else apart from maybe my nan, because obviously we all have family, but we don't see the family as much as what we do, you know, because that's just life. But with Hanshi, I've known him for 32 years, and I know loads of people have known him a lot longer or whatever, but yeah, I mean, I don't think I actually physically know or have had someone present in my life for longer than that man, other than my nan. So definitely an idol, amongst other things.
Yeah. And well, we've discussed this quite a few times already, and Sosai has been extremely important because he was the one who created the form of karate we do. So there's loads of respect to this human being. I've never met Sosai. I've never trained under Sosai. I've only trained under Henshi, and all the magical stories about Sosai, I honestly do believe. And if you read like the book of Shin Cameron and all sorts of stories, he was an amazing personality. But for me, Hanshi was Sosai. For me, he was the commitment of karate. You know, I mean, he was the definition of karate for me. And that's what you touched it already, Drew. When he was in our session, but not only in our session, every time this man came in touch with karate, either teaching or just enjoying 90 minutes of karate on the screen, he was probably at the happiest place where he could be, and he showed that to the world, and he had that passion. So that's what we're all. I think that's one of the biggest things we're gonna miss: his passion and his commitment to the art of karate.
I really think that's so true. And, you know, the man has so many stories. When I spoke with, I mean, for those, you guys know Omid from Knockdown Elite, right? You know, he's in, yeah. Omid was telling me some stories. I mean, where he said that, like, you know, this man is like, his movie is like, his story is straight out of a movie. It's basically like a mix of a James Bond, because he looked like Sean Connery with like everywhere he's been. Like, you know, he was born in Zimbabwe, then Rhodesia, then he moved around, and then eventually, like, to get one of IFK's biggest backers in the Middle East to help, you know, with the funding, was one of the princes. And he said, you know, it's just because of Hanshi Arneil was a very open-minded man, and he understood the importance of networking and finding the like-minded individuals. He seemed like a very, very good people person from what others say of him.
He was. I think that's one of the things for me, as I said, what you don't really got and heard about Sosai and loads of other older Shians or Hanshis or Kanchos or whatever. The big personality Hanshi had, and the people's person he was, besides all of his karate. That's something he really. I think he was all alone in that in the way he was.
Yeah, I agree. His talk about managers in football and like their man management and like the football management and you know, the tactical side of the game, but then the man management side of the game. And Hanshi was kind of like that as well. He had the technical elements, and then some people have the technical elements, and then not maybe the emotional elements that go into that. But Hanshi really was a complete package, and I think I mentioned it in my my KRT. Our KRT Hanshi Thursday that we attributed to him. The message behind Hanshi is simple, because he has a really good pedigree and background within karate. Of course he does, because he came from, as you say, Northern Rhodesia, kind of training a little bit of Kung Fu, then goes to China, then finds his way to Japan, and then he spends like three years solid training with a demigod, we can say that Oyama is known as, because I think it's plain to see that not normal people can do the things that him or Hanshi could and did do. And then he comes across, and then he has to adapt, you know, so his tactical awareness, you know, many people didn't have to do that in Kyokushin at that time. They came from a rough and ready, you know, ground and pound kind of background where knockdown was all it was. And she comes to a little island in Britain where that's not allowed, and then has to adapt. So tactically and karate wise, he has the knowledge and the diversity to change that. But then what he also did is he had this unique capability to be able to say, come follow me. Not only is this right, but I'll make you feel special and part of it whilst we're doing it. And that is the part of Hanshi that is absolutely mesmerizing, because he has time for everybody, you know. And I think we all know that in the past, you know, Wesley came from a much stricter background than me, because I was with Hanshi. But Wesley came from a background where, you know, kind of high grades were over here and you didn't associate with high grades, and then low grades were kind of over here. And then once you kind of climbed that ladder was the only time you got to mingle. And she didn't really care. I think I said it on one of my comments. My very first lesson as a beginner was with Hanshi in a class of maybe 100 odd people at Crystal Palace. Yet he came and took the beginners class. You know, he was never too good or too proud to kind of step down the ladder, so to speak, to take the time to speak, to be with low grades, whether you were a world champion, whether you were a low grade, whether you were an absolute newbie off the street. He had time for you, and he'd speak to the same with everybody. You know, we've touched the fact that he's been around royalty. He's been around poor people, rich people, royalty, and average Joes, you know, and it doesn't phase him. It doesn't alter him. And as soon as you step through that dojo, rightly so, we are all people.
I think the kanji, that kanji and dogi really like equalizes people. It creates equality, and you can really see through the who are the real ones, and then who are the I won't say the fake ones, but who are the posers, we can say. And I mean, that's what I like about Hanshi. You know, you said, Darren, he never created like a class system where the lowest ones are here and the higher ones are here. And I think that's a big problem. That's a big problem, man. I mean, one thing that I saw with Hanshi too was like when and a lot of people, if you read his bio, like, you know, he had a lot of discrimination when he came back to England from Japan, where his wife, who was Japanese, like everyone, like they just didn't accept it because, you know, it was due to the times. And he wanted to go to Australia, it turns out, but it failed somehow. And he says, it was by chance I stayed in United Kingdom. And then look what happened with the BKK and then other styles coming in, because you said Kyokushin, like, you know, wasn't really accepted. So it's amazing, like how he got like Wado Ryu, Goju Ryu guys to kind of like help get Kyokushin accepted. And how do you think that happened? Do you think he just had a way of charming all like the government officials and the other Shihans, their version of Shihan and whatnot in those styles?
Besides the fact that he was really, really, really good in his karate and knew how to manage and knew how to get the right people at the right places and using the right tactics in that sense, I think one of the most important things is, and well, I didn't know him in that time because I wasn't born, but even in those years, he didn't have an ego. So he was always, well, humble enough to know where to position himself, and then get away with the thing he actually wanted to, by sometimes bowing his head, sometimes standing up for what he wanted or what he thought was important. And well, I think that's how he managed the IFK. That's how he managed the BKK. That's how he managed everything in karate. And I think that is the way he got it all together. If you have a very high grade ego from Kyokushin, a very high grade ego from Wadaryu, or whatever style there is, you put them together in a room, it's going to be a cockfight. It's going to be, I'm better, this is better, my style is better. And Hanshi had the, well, charm, as you said, to, we all know Kyokushin is the best. We can say that, but he somehow managed to, well, not say it, and then just kind of create a camaraderie in all of those egos to make it happen. I think, and as I said, I wasn't there, but I think that's probably one of the reasons he was the one who made it happen.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Because I just give another two reasons why I think that's the case. One reason is Hanshi had an incredibly diverse background anyway. He did a bit of boxing, he did a bit of kung fu, he did a bit of Shaolin Kempo, he did a bit of judo. He also played rugby at a really good level for his kind of state region in South Africa, stroke country. And then he did Kyokushin as well and kind of excelled at that. Also, I think probably a big leveler for Hanshi, and he kind of admits it himself, is the fact that he failed his black belt. If that hadn't have happened, maybe his ego and his ethos maybe wouldn't have been the same. And I think he even said, well, he did. I don't think he did say it a few times, that had he not have failed his black belt, maybe he would never have gone on to do the things he did anyway. Because when he failed his black belt, he was deeply disappointed, because he knew that he was as good, if not maybe better, than other people that were passing. But Sosai knew also at that time that his mental capacity wasn't ready for that step. Physically, technically, all of those things, it was all ready. And it takes a very wise person to realize that. So we have to probably thank Sosai a million times over for taking that plunge, because it could have worked out really bad and Hanshi could have left and he could have maybe never ever revisited the dojo again, but as it happens, Sosai went and knocked on his door, said, "Hey, why you not been training since you failed your grade?" And then Hanshi made up a story and said he was ill. and then the following week he went back to training. But I think those two things allowed that exchangement to happen a lot easier for Hanshi, because of the fact he failed his grading, brought him down from where he thought that he was and probably was, brought him down on a humility level, and then that turned into the great man that he is. And he's always done a multiple of things in terms of disciplines as well. So although the karates were not the same style, you could say, okay, I've done a bit of boxing, I've done a bit of judo, I've done a bit of Shaolin, I've done a little kung fu, and then all of a sudden the people are like, okay, let's work together.
So that's the key, I guess, when you have other styles to your toolbox, it's going to just help you in the long run, because it shows how open-minded you are, and then maybe that can help others, eliminates the suspicion of others. So there was other thing. What else is interesting too is that when he founded the BKK first, and then IFK was eventually formed. So I know he was kind of. I want to be careful with my words here, because I know it's like, in terms of he was the adopted son of Sosai, but then eventually something happened. I don't know what the story is, but I mean, what led to the IFK being formed? Was it because that Hanshi had like a disagreement with Sosai, or was it because everything was like intact, and then IFK forms, and like and it just had to do, I guess, with something that happened with Hanshi and Sosai, maybe.
Well, it was the first organization outside of the IKO one. So yeah, in the World Tournament of '91, things happened, and that led to Hanshi saying, "All right, I'm not going to play this game anymore." And I think Darren, you can fill in a lot more details. I know a lot of stories, but you as well.
Yeah, effectively, it is the case though. So, you know, I mean, first and foremost is that Hanshi never left Sosai in the sense of, yes, we moved organizations, but Hanshi always really fundamentally loved, adored, admired Sosai. As you said, you know, he was his adopted father, so that he could marry his Japanese wife Chieko. Oyama did this for him. So there was clearly a unique bond there. Obviously, also with Sosai saying, "Can you do the 100-man?" You know, there's clearly a bond enough there to unite that, and then travel aboard in the BKK. Yes, the BKK was formed in 1965, I believe, when Hanshi came over. It might have been 1966, but I think it was 1965. But
yeah, I think it was 65. Yeah.
He founded this, created this, and then for many years, BKK was as part of IKO 1 as we know them now, which is effectively Matsui Group. I think there was a few problems leading up to 91 in any case. Obviously, the tournaments in Japan, you know, we'd had some really rough decisions, and I can't say that it was only the UK that had that, but obviously Michael Thompson versus Matsui went for 5 extensions, not rounds, wherein really and truthfully, Michael Thompson probably should have won on weight, and then I think boards as well, possibly. But as it so happens, you know, that was not unusual. What happened I think in 1991, shortly before the World Tournament, Hanshi was effectively betrayed by some other people, not Sosai. He was basically restricted to 5 dojos, and that's the only place he could teach effectively. I think it was Wimbledon, Crawley, Crystal Palace, Hastings, and another dojo. I think was the restrictions. Again, not 100% on that, because I was only in karate at that point for maybe 1 or 2 years. I started in 1990, end of 89, beginning of 1990, and then we'd split in 1991. So Hanshi was confined to those dojos, and basically he was in charge of the European IKO effectively. And then at that point, someone else approached Sosai and said, "Well, I'd like to do this for you instead." Therefore, with Hanshi being confided to 5 dojos, naturally he wasn't very happy about that, because he'd been in a great position of teaching abroad, spreading the karate, everything that his teacher wanted. And then all of a sudden, that was no longer happening. So we had a vote, not a vote that I was party to, because juniors can't vote in the AGMs. So we had a vote, and we said, do we want to stay with Japan and what we perceive as our leader, and rightly so, because we, as Wesley said, we only knew Hanshi. Many of us had never met Sosai, never trained under Sosai. It doesn't dilute what Sosai done, absolutely 0%, but you only know what you know. And I think that's it was a very important position for everyone. You know, we've only known Hanshi really, and Hanshi is now being restricted. You know, maybe other people will have another story around that, but ultimately we took the vote. those that wanted to stay with Japan stayed with Japan. Those that wanted to leave left. And then, you know, the BKK probably split in half. And then the IFK was formed in 92.
92.
Yeah, 92. And then Hanshi started a world organization. And then as time goes on, more people joined, you know, we got bigger. We held our own world tournament in 1997 for the first time. 1999, we were the first ones to hold Kata World Tournament, I believe. And then went from there, really. I mean, would it have been nice to have stayed with Japan? Yeah, probably many people would have said yes. But I think for many people, it was more important to stay with Hanshi. And obviously that was the way that we went. Hanshi was still in contact with Sosai, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's very important what you said there, Darren, that he never left Sosai. He left the IKO, the International Kyokushin Organization. That's the things that happened there between Hanshi and that made a business decision of leaving this organization and starting. Well, he kind of had to start his own by leaving the organization because there wasn't any other. But he's always, like, for as long as I know him, he's still calling Sosai his father, and there's a very big difference between leaving, making your own organization, changing the calligraphy, changing kata styles and stuff like that, or leaving the organization in the business wise decision he made, but still had, well, loads of love to his father, Sosai. I'm really glad you touched on that, because that is very important.
It is. You're right. It's hugely important, because Hanshi always referenced Sosai of a huge importance to his life. And Hanshi, really and truthfully, he would say, well, Sosai did this and Sosai did that, and this is what I'm teaching you. And really and truthfully, it's not all Sosai, you know, like whatever Wesley was taught by his instructor, the fundamentals come from that person, but then Wesley adapts it into what he perceives and that lot. And Hanshi was the same. He developed things, you know, but ultimately the maximum respect and kind of through funnel comes from his master teacher and his father, Sosai Oyama. But there's no way, you know, Hanshi wanted to go to the funeral, and she wanted to stay in touch with Sosai and did. It was just, as Wesley said, ultimately a business transaction that had to happen for a restriction that happened. You know, it's like saying that you can only shop at this one supermarket and you actually are the CEO of all the supermarkets. You know, it's unfortunately the change had to happen in that sense, and it did. We're here 20, 30 years later, effectively. And as it so happens, many others have set up organizations since. Hanshi wasn't the first person to leave IKO, though. There were others that left before him.
But they changed styles, like Ashihara and stuff like that. That's what you mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Effectively, he was the first to leave without changing the essence.
Yeah,
that's so true, because you have Seto Kaikan and Ashihara that left and changed their own.
Yeah, and that's fine. You know, that's fine. There's, you know, each to their own. But Hanshi had, like I said, deep-rooted love for Kyokushin, for Sosai Oyama, and the art that he was taught. And even today, many people come and see IFK people, and they're like, "Hey, that's the way that we originally used to do stuff." And Hanshi never really changed anything in that sense, because of the respect and love that he had for.
And that's what I really love as well, because if you know, we've all trained under different styles, different organizations and stuff like that. everyone says it's I'm teaching Sosai's way and stuff like that. They all say that, but there's so much things in the IFK which is exactly the same as the way he used to teach it. And there's I've been to Japan to train under Hanshi Oishi, and then we were doing kata bits and stuff like that. His kata is amazing, and then she and Cameron Quinn was there as well. That's where we met. We've talked about this before, and then I was doing stuff, and he was like, "Hey, you're an IFK guy. You're performing the IFK." He knew, because that's where there's so many things that's still the same way, and obviously, well, we might never know what it really was, what the true essence was. I think the true essence of Sosai was to develop further. So if someone goes on with his style to keep developing this, and there's always going to be little changes, but in respect of Hanshi, he even if it's not the original way Sosai did, let's keep this as a open end, loose end. The things he created, the basics he created, the syllabus and stuff like that, it's the best I've ever seen. I honestly believe it's the best I've ever seen. And if you look at IFK guys worldwide, IFK guys most of the time very technical and great all-round karatekas.
Very true. I want to ask this though, because I want to take it back to when you guys said Darren said 1997 was the first world tournament. Now, the 1990s were a very interesting decade. You know, we could talk about me. I mean, me and Wesley were born. Wesley's born in 90. I'm born in 91. It's what we call the guinea pig era, like where we got the TV shows In Living Color, or Saturday, Mad TV, whatnot, MTV, video games, the internet, but the Cold War ended. Okay, now I've spoken with Sensei Zimmerman about this in another IFK, Misha. So Misha told me there was Sosai had some roots in Russia during the Cold War, in the Iron Curtain days. But after the Cold War ended, Russia was ripe for the taking. We knew what talent was there because we heard snippets. How did Hanshi manage to get Russia into the fold so fast with IFK? Like, what do you think led to that? Like, and who were the first ones that you guys know that are in Russia IFK that joined? I just want to know how that happened, because I think I always like to say that was a big coup for IFK to get Russia into their organizations really fast.
I think Tanyushkin, he straight away followed Hanshi, and he still is I'm saying that right. He still is the top guy in the IFK Russian Federation, and then there's Viktor Fomin, Xian Andrei Bura, and all of these guys. But I think Xian Tanushkin and Xian Fomin were the first ones to follow straight away. And I think Xian Tanushkin helped organize or was in the lead of the organization of the 97 World Tournament. I think he's the one.
Yeah. You know, what we need to understand is Hanshi was going over to Russia for an extremely long time. You know, I mean, even to the point when Hanshi used to go to Russia and they weren't even allowed to do karate. So
you're telling me he went during the Iron Curtain, like in secret?
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately.
There's a besides that, please go on, but there's a wicked story about that, because that story happened in Russia.
Yeah. So Hanshi was going over there and he was teaching basically in the forests and things like that. So they were training in the forests, and then if someone come along, they'd like act that they were doing like some aerobics class rather than karate. So Hanshi took an incredible amount of risks to help develop and bring Russia forward. And I think this this goes to a huge unselfishness that this man has actually given in his lifetime. And I think you said on it earlier, Drew, where people don't really appreciate things until it's gone. And it's absolute golden fact with this man, because he could have had a lot of things outside. You know, he's an engineer by trade. You know, he does this, he does that, you know, mine engineer, all of this kind of stuff. Talk royalty, could have gone over to the States after being named the world best coach, made millions of pounds, but he chose to stick where he is. But anyway, back to the Russia incident. He used to go over there with many people, you know, Jeff Wybrows, the Nick DeCostas, you know, and probably a bunch of other people that I don't even know of that he was taking over there. But, you know, Hanshi used to take risks in that area, and in a lot of other areas as well. If he believed in it and it was the direction that he truly believed was going to make things better, he would take that risk and he would go forward with it. He would have support, of course he would, but I think that's a really key factor to how he secured Russia, because of the investment that he had already put in there. He was going there, you know, and the stories he used to tell me, you know, they were flying over there on planes with like literally animals in the same kind of thing, you know, and, you know, you'd be holding on to like a little thing that come from the roof because you didn't have a seatbelt, you know, and things like that. And it was ridiculous times, you know. It was very, very primitive in a way for a long time going over there. And I mean, me and Wesley have experienced a little flight up to Hamburg, and like the chairs, they literally flip forward like the Guess Who game. I don't know if everyone has Guess Who games, but
it's a very tough way of life up there. And it's like, I mean, then if you want to look, if like in the Arctic Circle, there's like two Russias. There's the European Russia, and then there's like the Siberian Russia, like where Khabarovsk is, Vladivostok, and it's like
we've been to both.
You've been to You've been to Vladivostok?
No, not. We've been to Novy Urengoy. It's like 60 kilometers from the Arctic Circle. We've been there to the tournament, and well, one time it was complete luxury for all the fighters, and the other time we were sleeping in a bunker where we shared one shower with 80 fighters. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, it is a big difference. But, you know, all the time, Hanshi has always been at those tournaments, supported Russia in a lot of ways, and as Wesley said, you know, Russia supported him back with the '97 World Tournament, because in Russia, if I believe, I don't live in Russia, but I believe if you get a certain number of countries participating in the event, then the government kind of backs that a little bit more. And fortunately, we were able to hold that event, and it was a great success, and we've never really looked back since then. Obviously, there was a little bit of a delay between '91, our last World Tournament with IKO, to '97, but yeah, it's you know, again, it's just down to those relationships that Hanshi had forged. And I said it at the beginning, you know, I'm going this way. My name's Hanshi Steve Arneil. I'm going this way. Come and follow me. But, you know, you'll feel special and wanted and part of a family in the process of doing it. And I think that is why he took them countries with him, because it's not always about financial gain. It's not always about, you know, at that time, IKO 1 was clearly the biggest thing out there by a country mile. But Hanshi believed it was right.
And I'm also thinking maybe, and this is what I'm thinking. So this is based on my feeling, and when we're talking about this, as Darren said, there used, and that's where I came from in Holland. It used to be very there's like a big hierarchy, and if you're a high grade, you don't really have to respect lower grades and people who don't know as much as you do. Then there is the political structure. Japan had a very mind of thinking or way of thinking they used to live like. Russians and those countries had a quite a unique way of thinking and living. maybe this politically didn't really connect. And then this man, this 1 meter and 65 centimeters man from Africa comes comes to your place and treats you like a human being instead of a number, and he treats you like you're amazing and that you really can make a difference within in karate, in something you thought was awesome but always kind of maybe didn't feel worthy, and he makes you feel worthy. And then they were like, all right, what path are we gonna follow? And as I said, this is based on my feelings, my instincts, and the way I knew Hanshi. I think a lot of his charms there happened in, you know what, we're gonna follow this man. I truly believe that is a reason why people follow him, because you when you don't know what good karate is, or when you only know one style or one type of living, you're good with it. When you got shown something new, it's amazing. The first time I saw MMA, I was like, wow, this is well cool. And then if you go further in there, then you think, oh, right, I'm very interested in UFC, not so much this, and I think this is what happened. But then in the Kyokushin skill, a lot of people had this with Hanshi. They were shown another way.
I think it's amazing too. What I think it's amazing how much he united people, despite, even though, like, I don't say despite, he united people regardless of their religion, their language, their creed. For example, I had Shihan Itzik Ashkenazi on, and he's from Israel. And then you have, and then IFK has Iran. And I said to him, how do you guys do it? And he's like, because, and he told me off the record, I'll never forget this. And Itzik said, because Hanshi always said, it's not about your language or your religion, it's about the dogi and what you wear. And he's like, and that's why we get along. He's like, we do not let the influence of politics, of geopolitics, get involved in martial arts. It does not belong there. It does not
Darren,
belong there.
Isn't this one of the reasons Hanshi kind of didn't use the Kyokushin oath in?
Yeah, it was.
In the basics.
Yeah, because we stopped using it around about the time we kind of left Japan anyway, and obviously it was brought over from IKO1 anyway. But yeah, he always had it. In fact, I was I read the oath, and I actually have it on in my personal dojo, but
I haven't yet.
Yeah, I'm supposed to send it over, but being a dodgy post, to be there. Anyways, in my grading book, it's actually got the dojo oath in the front page. So when I joined, it was very much part of what we did. But actually, I was talking to Hanshi about it one day, and he's actually circled one of them, number 6, where it says, "We will follow our gods and never forget the true virtue of humility." That number 6 was the problem that Hanshi had, because as you so rightly pointed out, the people in Israel, people in the Middle East, there's a lot of people that only bow or only take faith in their God and their God only, and that's fine. I personally am not religious at all, but I don't have a problem with people that are. It's their own beliefs.
To each their own.
Exactly. Actually, religion actually really fascinates me. Because I just, it does. But Hanshi took this away, and then it kind of adapted a little bit, where it said we will follow our religious principles. But there's that fine line of kind of, it is open-minded and vague, because it doesn't say you're going to follow my God or my religious principles. It does relate to a person's religious principles. But I think he felt it was just a little bit too close to the mark, and didn't want to offend people on that, which I think is a shame, because I think it is a very well thought process, that oath. And I again, maybe it's just because I'm not religious, I don't think it would offend people. But again, it may do. But Hanshi took that out, as a respect value.
The fact that he thought about this in is I think is a little bit like looking into the future. You know what I mean? He probably knew there's always like the interpretation people can have in a wrong way, or could be feeling, not okay with it. So
it goes to the old saying, doesn't it? Don't ever talk about politics or religion. If we don't talk about them, then most people get on really well. They don't argue, they don't have disagreements. And I think as a result of that, Hanshi was like, well, let's not talk about politics or religion, and take that out of the and not say the dojo oath.
Yeah, it's like that for me. Like, I mean, I'm Jewish, Muhammad is Muslim, but we don't let like these like outside influences get in our friendship. Like, for example, like Mo and I plan to work together like in the future to some degree. And I know you got to be careful, like, there's no friends in business, but we share the same views and whatnot. And, there's been people that said, oh, well, be careful. Like I've actually had people tell me, like, they're not even in martial arts. They just tell me, be careful with your friend Mo. He's going to backstab you. Just watch. It's in his people's nature. And it's like, really? It's like, really? Do you know him? Do you know that he helped me with my move? So would he be backstabbing me if he took time out of his day to come help me move into my first apartment and come meet my mother who's terminally ill? And then my mother, like my own mother, like she said, she said, I've never had another child, but if I had a second son, I would consider Mohammed a second son because of how he's been for you and what he's taught you with his religion. And that says something about martial arts. And you think of it, let's take it back to Hanshi. Like, I know it's a bit of a tangent, but think of it. If it wasn't for Hanshi Steve Arneil, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I don't think I'd be meeting Mohammed to a degree.
Yeah. I mean, Wesley and me have spoke about this many a times, haven't we, Wes?
Yeah, well, on a daily basis, the last couple of weeks. Well, we always talk on daily basis, but now it actually makes sense instead of only having fun.
Yeah, because there's no way that we would have known each other. I mean, there's several reasons why that is. I'm 9 or 10 years older than Wesley. Normally, people don't kind of associate in that kind of age brackets. In some degrees, normally you graduate with your friends, you kind of stay friends with them friends, and you don't meet people that are a couple of 100 miles away across the sea. It never would have happened. I mean, the chances of me walking through Zoetermeer just one day and going, hey, I like your glasses, where'd you get them from? And striking up
very small.
No, it's very true. Like, and even like doing this, like what I do when I do this, I think this like show, podcast, whatever, blog, whatever you want to call it. Like it's like nice to see like when you get like random people like within Kyokushin from all the other organizations. Cause like they could just message and then add you and they're like, hey, like, I watched this and I love when you said this part. I love when Darren and Wesley said this. Or for example, when I had on Sensei Junior Russo, people said, oh, I really like that. Like, and then, also Xian Pierre Cataford from Nakamura and one of his students out, not one of his students, but like a Nakamura disciple, the Nakamura student, I should say, out west, like a senpai and Sasha Tadoyani. And it's like, he's like, hey, he's like, we need, and then Sebastian Cans, like another sensei that say, we need people like you doing this because it's going to just bring everybody together. And I think with Hanshi's passing, what I loved, like, I mean, look, we can say, I'm sure we've all seen like some stuff where we're like we know that's not genuine, but if we pay attention to the positives, what I really loved about like the memoriam of him was seeing all the organizations finally put their differences aside just for once, which we didn't see during the pandemic at all when they preached for unity. Like we finally saw them practice what they were preaching, remembering Steve Arneil, putting these tributes out. I never expected it. Even like I think even IKO1 even put out like a beautiful tribute too. Like well,
that was the thing as well, because from IFK, Hanshi was always open to cooperate with anyone. He's never been close. And then I I knew that. But then in 2009, I kind of, for the first time, there was the All World Championships in Hungary, and Kensho Royama was there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the amount of respect Kensho Royama had for Hanshi, that and Hanshi for him, yeah. So it was it was double sided. But the, I was there as a spectator. Darren was there as a competitor, and the things I saw there, I was like, wow, this is how it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? The we are all wearing a badge, a kanji, either the calligraphy or maybe it changed calligraphy and stuff like that. But in the end, Sosai made something, and we all relate. What it doesn't matter what color of a gi you're wearing or what calligraphy is on your chest or whatever you do. In essence, it's all the same we do. And then in the '09 World Tournament, I saw how much of an influence Hanshi had to the world. And then 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, we saw again how much of an influence he had to the world, where the world was, well, the earth stood still for a little moment when they all knew and got to know about the passing of, well, a legend in my humble opinion.
Yeah, and I think Cameron said in our KR Talks interview that we did with him that there's probably two things that happen or two possibilities that happens when people die. You either die and you make the world a better place for you not being here, or you pass and the world is not a better place for what that it will now miss. And this is definitely 100% the case for definitely me. But I think 99.999% recurring of Kyokushin, and it's only the people that maybe have never heard of Hanshi that maybe don't miss, because unfortunately, as you said, for a very, very long time, Hanshi was ostracized. He was the enemy because he left Japan, and people don't really realize, as we've touched on, he never left Sosai. He left the organization. But then as time goes on, more people left, more people were probably ostracized, and then they go, actually, I want to work with this guy. It wasn't the bad egg that everybody originally thought it to be. Hanshi's always been very pure in his position, in his thoughts, in his process. He's never held a grudge, and many people have touched on that in the tributes. 1 minute he's absolutely blasting you, God damn it, why can't you do this right? Maybe hitting you with something he maybe shouldn't be hitting you with, like a big stick or something. And then the next minute he's like, so what are you doing at the weekend? And then all of a sudden it's like just that flip of the coin. It's not bipolar, but it's kind of down that avenue. You know what I mean? Where he's absolutely blasting you, and then the next minute he's just having a laugh. Being a normal person, and that's again the unique capability that he had, and I think it will be deeply missed.
My favorite Hanshi photos I've seen were one like where people repost where like he's in like a suit and he's pointing at the camera and there's like a quote that goes like, you, what have you done with your life lately? And it's like, and I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. I don't want to butcher the quotes because then I'll probably get people like message me, like, no, you should have said this. And I don't remember. There's like a million posts on Facebook a day, but it was one of the iconic ones. The other ones that really stood out to me was the one with Janine where like he's hugging her after like it looks like she won something, because and it just goes to show you like how much of an impact he had. Or like the photo like with you, Darren, like where like he's like correcting your Mawashiri, Gary. And then the one that I posted in my not profile pic, but the home screen, like where you see like him looking up at the sky with Sosai, and it's like it's crazy. Like they look up at the sky and now they look down from the sky. That was a pretty like iconic photo.
Yeah, we've been talking about, well, in the chat we've been sending each other pictures from, well, us with him, or like just back in the day we had a Hanshi Thursday session where some pictures were sent from out of Switzerland, where he just was. So we've been talking about this as well, and then there's as we're talking about this, I'd like to talk about two pictures I love. One of them pictures is a picture Michi Fogarashi from Canada also shared. Is that's the way I'd like to remember him, where he's in a, I think he was teaching in Russia, because it's from a Russian camp.
Looks like we lost Wes's sound.
Oh, do you hear me now?
Now I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, something went wrong. So where he balls his fist and screams to the people, that's such a powerful picture. I'm really fond of that. And then the other one made by Damon Collins, who is a student from Wimbledon Dojo, who is a regular at the KRT sessions. I didn't even knew he was the one who made it. He pointed this out to us as we used this picture, and he pointed this out very recently. He didn't say, "Hey, you're using my picture," but he felt honored that we used this. Is the one of his just his face looking into the camera, and it's I think it's actually the one used for the drawings Mick made, but that picture speaks so many emotions, and truly shows you how, I don't know. I think everybody who looks at that picture has a different feeling with that picture, and when I look at that picture, I have so many fond memories and lovely memories of that man, that individual. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is a really good picture that kind of looks into the soul and the being of him, and the thing is what he gives you back, like with just looks and glances, and the glance of encouragement, or the the touch of correction that he kind of gives you is it's a very special man, because Cameron said it about he had it with Sosai, because he was very close to Sosai, and could kind of break you with a look, and then heal you at the same time with another look. And I think masters like the Sosais, like the Hanshis, they have this about them. They there's more to them than just a great technique, and I think this is what mastery is about. Yeah, there's been dime a dozen people potentially that have had really good techniques, lots of skill sets, but there's probably only a handful of people like the Sosais, the Hanshis, maybe the Kancho Royamas, and I've not trained with all of them. Hirogoshi for Hiroshige, but for example as well. They're special people, not just in ability, but their ability to make a difference in so many people. And Sosai did that because he built an empire effectively with 10 million practitioners. And we go back to what we were talking about before, as we would never have known anyone. But when you think about it now, they're probably across all the organizations, there's probably more than 10 million people practicing Kyokushin. So straight away you have a bond with many people because of special people like that, and then you meet more special people, and and then you get involved, and then you realize actually there's more to this than just kicking and punching.
It's the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and people like that, they sell that to you. That's effectively what they do. They sell it to you through their own experiences, but through their own drive, determination, and the way they want to mold and progress the art is fascinating. We can't thank them enough. It's impossible. If I was to give back the debt that I owe Hanshi, is remarkable. I could pay it the rest of my life, and one day I will see him again and still owe him immensely.
Yeah, he's definitely been an extremely instrumental figure. I think like if there's a Mount Rushmore of Kyokushin, obviously you have to put Stosai up there, but Hanshi
Yeah.
Steve Arneil has to be up there. Like he has to be there just for what he's helped accomplish, and like, you know, just like helping the art grow, and continues to grow and worldwide. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I mean, we can't predict it, but it seems like he created such a good foundation, and hopefully like it's just going to continue to like get better and better. And who knows? I mean, things are always changing in this art, especially with COVID. Like things have just changed immensely over the past year.
Yeah.
Yeah, who'd have thought you'd be teaching online for 15 months?
Well, that's something Angie said as well, you know, and I said it before. I was really, really, really thankful for him dropping by in the session. He wasn't he wasn't really dropping by. He came into the session. We showed him our home dojos. He was there enjoying the things, and he was extremely proud of the things we did. And he was like, "Well, this brings back so many memories of when I used to train in the Sosai's first dojo without the whole Zoom thing," is how he called it. But it's amazing how he was really proud of even those type of circumstances and evolvings in karate, because he would have never thought this was able to be happening. And we all we all want to be in a dojo wearing our gi, you know, feeling the true atmosphere and being there. But this was such a good, well, a, a positive thing about something really negative. So and it's really good that he's also seen this, you know what I mean, and not only by us. He's seen a fair few people doing this. He's been involved and around in those type of things. But it's just really good that he happened to see this as well, I think.
Was he like having the help of like his, like in the video, like with the technology side, like with like his kids or his wife? Because he looked pretty adept with getting on Zoom.
It took you a while, innit, Darren?
Yeah. So out of the blue, because I used to send him the link every single session. Anyways, him and obviously loads of others. So one day he just called me up. He was like, "Darren, about this session tonight. We were doing Renraku's backwards. Was the actual session we were doing." He was like, "So this session tonight, how do I join?" And I was like, he obviously called me up because he wasn't entirely sure about the computer. So I was like, "Okay, I'll send you a link. I'll send you just the link." I said, "I'll give you a call up and we'll talk through and we'll have a practice run before I get there." So, you know, Hanshi is great at many things. I think he'd be the first to admit that technology probably wasn't one of them. The amount of time
that was also one of the things why he didn't came in before, because he got a lot of the links already. There's a picture of him wearing our shirt, and he was like, I'm proud of you guys for what you guys are doing, but I don't know how this works. So keep on going. I will see you. I will see you in person soon enough. And then this happened.
I think also he didn't expect COVID to go on as long as it did, as we all did. So he's probably thinking, there's going to be a couple of sessions on this, and then we'll be back to normal. So yeah. Anyway, I sent him through a private link, like a test link, and I'm on the phone to him and say, "Okay, so click here, you know, and then you need to activate your camera," and then kind of had a little test run, and he was like, "Oh, and that's it." I was like, "Yeah, and that's it," you know. So a few hours later, the session was started. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want him to. I didn't want to tell everybody, hey, this great man's coming, and then two things are probably going to happen. You're probably going to get a load of people joining in that don't necessarily
normally aren't there. Yeah.
Everybody's welcome, of course they are, but it's not to hide anything. But you know, and the second thing was he may have changed his mind. He may have gone, actually, I don't feel too comfortable about coming on. So fortunately, we had a great lesson, and we had no glitches at all. I obviously told Wesley that he was coming on because we're taking the lesson together. But so we logged in early. We had a little chat, and then she and Jeff Wybrow come in, and then loads of other people come in, and just the joy. I mean, I think Wesley said it anyway. It's probably one of the greatest moments in his career, really, and he's had some great moments, obviously. But the joy on people's faces, and I'm really, really pleased that we were able to give this to so many people and to ourselves, because we haven't seen this man for many, many months, and it kills me to this day still that's the case. But having said that, at least we could give people the minority chance that they had through this session. And it was really, really special. I'll probably remember it for the rest of my life.
How do you guys I know that Hanshi's had a very big impact on both of you, but if we remember the positives, what do you think was the biggest impact he's had for each of you in and out of the dojo? If there's one thing that he taught you for in and out of the dojo that stayed with you, that will stay with you until we all pass on.
That's a pretty hard question.
Yeah. I made it hard.
Yeah, thank you. Good question, though.
Yeah, that's a golden one. Where do you want to go first?
I'm quite an extrovert person, so I normally talk when I think. So that's what I'm doing right now. You guys wouldn't know I'm extrovert. I think so your question is in and outside of the dojo, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Outside of the dojo, to stay true to yourself, to who you are, and to be authentic. In my opinion, he was so authentic, and there was only one Hanshi, you know what I mean? And there was nothing fake about him, nothing. And even if he saw you and he didn't remember who you were, he could get away by acting nice and being genuine, and then say, I don't really know who you are, but I can give you the feeling, and that's a touch of magic. So to be authentic and to be who you are, stay true to yourself without an ego. Everybody has an ego, but to not rise above yourself, I think that is one of the things outside of the dojo he taught me. And it's not that he taught me a life lesson at the bar or at the sayonara or something. It's a life lesson he taught me for being who he was, and for the way he was outside of the dojo. He was the most genuine and normal guy I've ever met. He was like a puppy grandfather, if you think about it. Inside of the dojo, I think kind of, and that's what Darren was talking about as well. So it's probably in line of what it might be in line with what he's going to say, or what a lot of people will be saying is to honestly push yourself to be the best at what you can be, and to not look at other people's and think, hey, I want to do this, or I want to be as good as him in the right, or I want to be as good as the sensei or shian at front, or I want to be as good as, be the best version of yourself, be the best version of you, and know that you have some things you got to overcome with, or to adapt, but to be the best version of and be a better version of who you were yesterday is probably what he taught me, or what I took out of his lessons in karate. And I'd like to believe that the way he touched me and the way he gave me the inspiration to do this is the way how I teach karate, how I teach, the way how I teach, and the way I'd like to be in life, to be a better version of myself, and to make the people I am in contact with, or teach, or train, to be a better version of themselves than they were yesterday. That's probably that. Yeah, I'd go for this answer.
Yeah, it's. I think everybody's gonna have not too dissimilar answer to that. To be fair, because he made me everything I am today, without a shadow of a doubt. I've been very fortunate to have been with Hanshi from day one to 2 weeks ago Friday. So I've been incredibly humbled by this man and incredibly driven by this man. Yes, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be complete, because that's what I was always taught. I was taught not to necessarily be perfect, but to strive for that. To be the best version and most complete version of what I or anyone else could ever be. And that's the only way you can really drive forward. I believe that you continue improvement, never be satisfied. Hanshi was never one, in 1975, whenever it was, I can't remember the year, when he won the world tournament against the Japanese, he could have just sat back and said, I'm Hanshi Steve Arneil, I'll just rest on my morals, just go forward here and just be whoever I want to be because I've done it. No, he didn't do that, and that was way back before anything else great that he'd ever achieved had happened, before he'd built an empire, before he taught in probably every single country on the planet almost several times around, sacrificed a lot. But he didn't rest on that. He didn't look down at his grade and go, oh yeah, I'm a 6 down. I'm it now. I don't need to worry about it. He carried on pushing, he carried on driving, and he carried on inspiring to the very last breath that he had. From the moment he probably stepped in to Sosai's dojo for the very first time to the very last time he ever put his gi on in a dojo. He inspired people. That's what he gave me week in, week out. Everybody doesn't agree with everything that everybody says. Me and Wesley are very, very similar in a lot of ways, but we don't have the same view about absolutely everything. But hopefully he inspires me, I inspire him, and Hanshi was that. He was an inspiration. He was a leader. He was a designated true north for everybody in Kyokushin, and that's what he was for me inside the dojo. It's like you look up and it's the brightest star in the night, and it's that's what Hanshi is. He's the brightest star in the gi. Whether he was 84 and a fraction of the man he may have been able to perform things when he was Wesley's age to where he was at 85, it's still a beacon, a true north position that everybody can look and aspire and inspire and aspire to be. I think that's what he's given me in the dojo. Outside of the dojo, I think it's really similar to Wesley. People are people. We should never forget this. People are people, whether they're CEOs, doctors, gardeners, builders, working class, middle class, upper class, royalty. People are people. It's more important to see people for people than people for social status. I think Hanshi gave this in abundance. Very, very many times, you all you see is people walk in the dojo. It's a really important lesson for everybody, All you see is people walk in the dojo, they put their gi on, we all look at that newbie come through the door and they're like, yeah, he's uncoordinated, yeah, he can do this, yeah, he can do that, he can't even do 5 push-ups. And it's easy for us to judge and and give all of them things about him, but then you know nothing about that person. That person could have saved 50 people on an operation table the week before. He could have raised millions of pounds for charity, or, you know, run a successful business here, there, and everywhere. And, you know, just because you've been in a position maybe longer than him in the dojo and you can kick a little bit better, punch a little bit better. But the important thing is that we all started off in that same position in that dojo. He may have had other priorities outside of the dojo that meant he didn't go as far in karate that we did, but then on the other side of the thing, I went further in karate than maybe I did outside of the dojo. So does it give him the right to laugh at me because I cut someone's grass or add up some figures, or, you know, whatever job function you do? You know, we all have a skill set. We all try to come in harmony within karate. And I think Hanshi gives that level playing field for everyone to be on. And if you can utilize people's skill sets in any way, shape, or form, great. But it doesn't make you any better or worse than them. It's just different. And I think that's one of the things that is great that we can all learn from.
That's amazing. I really agree with what you both said. Like, because people are people at the end of the day, and we can't judge the kohais when they come into the dojo. We were kohais too. It doesn't make us any better than them. And, you know, and I think that's something that I think that Hanshi's impact will have. And you know, just all the people he's changed, like, you know, they came from rough and tumble backgrounds, and how karate basically saved them from like going into gangs, getting into addictive habits like drugs, alcohol, gambling, amongst other things. It's just amazing. And I mean, it doesn't make sense to me how this man hasn't been knighted somehow, or like knighted or honored, like, by the.
It's
like,
funny. It's funny you should say that, actually, because we did put him forward for it.
Really?
Yeah, my mum was the secretary at Crawley at one point, where I used to train under Hanshi. So I started in Crystal Palace, as many people know, and then I was fortunate to move to a little village, and then luckily Hanshi was there. So we actually started the process for him to get a Sir status. I wasn't involved in that process because I was very young at the time, but it often eludes me how someone who's done so much for so many people, not just in the UK but outside of the UK, didn't materialize. And the only explanation I can come up with is that just karate just isn't high profile enough. You know, it's very difficult. If, you know, yes, we have 10 to 15 million people practicing Kyokushin throughout the world, but unfortunately that isn't publicized on the TV. It isn't publicized on national television, Sky, Virgin, you know, Sky Sports, Eurosport. It used to be on Eurosport. It used to have a good coverage, and then it slipped away. That's the only thing I can think of that is the reason it hasn't materialized. But
it would have been really, really good, and yeah,
deserving. I think it would have been good.
Well deserved. Yeah.
Because,
that's a bummer that didn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, I don't think there's a single person in Kyokushin that could doubt that is a worthy stance for Hanshi to sit on that same kind of mantle as kind of, you know, great people that have had knighthoods and things like that. And, you know, but c'est la vie, as they say. You know?
Yeah.
I guess we'll conclude it here, guys. But thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I mean, yeah, so I'm back in action, but what better way to do this than remembering a legend like who's done everything for karate? And I think it's more positive. There was more positives from this episode than any other. Like, all my episodes are great. All the episodes are great, but this one's a really important one to shed light on. So where can people connect with you guys at if they want to get involved with KRT?
Well, before we go there, I would like to thank you, Drew, for doing this.
Yeah.
There's a million other stories that we can only tell, but there's a million other stories people can tell and talk about Hanshi. And I just really want to thank you for making time in remembrance of Hanshi, which is so important for Kyokushin in what we do, but also it's very important for us. And as I said, I'm really thankful for you taking time and doing this with us.
Yeah, likewise. It's a real credit to pay respects to such a great man. Really humbled that you asked us to be a part of it. As Wesley said, we could talk about Hanshi's stories all day, and I haven't actually done anything about it myself yet, but because I'm not quite ready. But we are very interested in hearing what people's stories and events are through Hanshi. So as we're in this moment in time, we'd like to hear them, to be fair. So please feel free to email us on the KRT email with your stories of Hanshis, whether they be a video, written down, pictures. We'd love to hear about them, because frankly, we just can't get enough of them, because all we have now are memories. And I think it's really, 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 really important that we keep those memories very active, to know where we came from, in order to know where we're going to, because this man gave up a lot, and I appreciate him untold. And I thank you as well, Drew, for taking the time to honor and respect him.
If I don't do this, it hurts my credibility as a Kyokushin practitioner.
Yeah, as said, thank you. So if people want to find us, Wesley, Jansen, Darren Stringer on Facebook and Instagram, KRT Tips and Tricks is the podium which we both share. Darren has a dojo, Budo Kyokushin Kai in UK. I've got one in Holland, dojohokorimeiyo, and all of this is to find on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Do we have any other socials?
Not that I know of. Maybe some people have set up some spoof accounts, but I don't know why they do that, to be fair. No, I mean, obviously, we're around. It's a very small world in social media, to be fair. You can find us fairly easily, I think, and that's not to say that we're bigger than Sky TV, because we're not. But just type us in, and we'll be happy to help you, guide you, take any questions, and we'd love to hear your stories as well.
Perfect.
We have loads of friends.
Yeah. And guys, if you want to subscribe to my channel, make sure to like and share. I got to say that in the beginning. It's the first episode, but just give it another episode or two before I catch my rhythm. So make sure to like, subscribe, Drew Sperience on Instagram and YouTube. I had a Facebook page, but I failed at that. So that's why I just put stuff on my personal Facebook page, and then you guys just share it. And then that way it catches wind.
One more shout out. We got a lovely sponsor who takes the time and trust in us. Kyokushin World Shop, great gear, and a great commitment and a great partnership. So I thought it was very important to say this. Kyokushin World Shop, they deliver worldwide goods, people, worldwide.
Yeah, they've got all the gear and lots of ideas.
Awesome.
That's amazing. All right, guys. And this show will be on YouTube and audio soon, maybe next week.